Hello, podcast listeners. We know podcasts are a great way to catch up on a program that you may have missed on KSJE, and it's provided as a free service of this radio station. But you know, KSJE is now listener-supported, and so while you enjoy this podcast, we hope that you'll also take some time to join KSJE. Become a member today. It's quite easy to do. Just go to our website at ksje.com/support and pick the level of support that best matches your budget. Thanks again for listening. Here's your podcast. 10 minutes past 8 o'clock. It is Tuesday morning, the 20th day of January, 2026. Good morning, everybody. I'm Scott Michlin. Thanks for tuning in to KSJE, 90.9 FM over the air right here in San Juan County, New Mexico. In Durango, Colorado, our frequency there, 103.3 FM. And if you're listening to my voice from anywhere else on planet Earth, you've gone to our website to do that, ksje.com, or maybe you're listening through the new KSJE radio app. It is great to have you with us, everybody. So thank you so much for joining us. We want to also welcome our viewers who are watching this morning, the video of this program, streaming out live to the KSJE Facebook page and also to our YouTube channel. So welcome aboard, everyone. So glad that you are with us, because coming up in the next few moments, my guest this morning from Aztec Schools. They'll be here to give us an update on some of the programs that they are working on at Aztec Schools and some other things they are watching. So stay tuned for that coming up in the next few moments right here on KSJE this morning. Later on, of course, it's Tuesday. That's our Adopt a Pet Tuesday segment from the Farmington Regional Animal Shelter. We'll be talking to Amber Francisco about some of the pets available for adoption this week, including Hansel. That's the name of the dog you see on the screen right there. Stay tuned for that coming up 8:50 this morning on KSJE. Then, of course, Mick Hess will take over the studio, Roving with the Arts, our weekday classical music program. Don't forget, you can also connect with KSJE. Downloading our podcasts are available where you're already listening to podcasts, I would bet. So give a listen, maybe discover a new local program that you may have missed. And, of course, you can also get podcasts through the new KSJE radio app, available at the App Store and on Google Play. Outside our studios at San Juan College, it's currently sunny and 22 degrees this morning. We're expecting a mostly sunny day today. Still cool, 42 for a high in Farmington. Clear tonight with a low of 23. It'll be sunny and 44 tomorrow. Partly sunny and 46 on Wednesday. But take a look on Thursday, I should say. But take a look at Friday and Saturday. A chance of rain or snow showers, 50% chance each day, with maybe high of the mid to lower 40s and overnight lows in the mid to lower 30s. Back with my guest from Aztec Schools right after this on KSJE. KSJE is supported by San Juan Regional Medical Center, whose vision is to deliver world-class care, making life better for the communities they are privileged to serve. Offering a comprehensive range of inpatient, outpatient, and emergency care services so residents can live life better here. San Juan Regional Medical Center, community-owned and operated, here for you. Ready to make a difference close to home? The University of Denver Graduate School of Social Work Four Quarters program is accepting applications for the 2026-2028 Master of Social Work cohort. Classes meet Fridays in Durango, letting you keep working. Learn more at du.edu/socialwork/fourcorners. Students can change the future with DU and apply now for lasting impact.
Now back to Studio A and the award-winning Scott Michlin morning program on KSJE.
My guest in the studio this morning, as I mentioned, from Aztec Schools this morning, Superintendent Lauren Laws is back with us. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Good to have you here. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Also with you this morning, you brought with you some other folks from Aztec Schools, of course. Evelyn Garcia is here. She is your Associate Superintendent of Finance. Welcome back to KSJE.
Good morning.
Nice to have you here. Also here with us this morning, Dr. Warman Hall is here, Aztec Schools Director of Federal Programs. Dr. Hall, welcome back.
Sir. Thank you.
Good to have you here as well. And so, Superintendent Laws, we'll start start with you a little bit about some of the things that are going on with the Aztec schools, your cabin fever. How'd that go?
Yes, it went excellent. So our professional development day back in January, one of the days we spent half a day at the middle school, and we called it our cabin fever. So we had our own staff come in and facilitate different sessions regarding a range of things. Ms. Garcia presented on how schools are funded, and then of course we had classroom instruction and just a wide range. And we had nothing but great feedback. Staff really enjoyed it. They loved that there was choice to their professional development. And I think they liked the time. We did 45-minute sessions. So yeah, overall we had excellent feedback, and we're excited to look at the feedback and make improvements for next year and do it again, hopefully bigger.
Right.
So, yes, it went really, really well.
Very good, very good. Ms. Garcia, tell me a little bit about your presentation. I imagine to explain how school districts are funded, that's not a short topic because there's a lot of different buckets that you have to deal with, right?
Yes, it was so much fun, and it was so interesting. I had a lot of participation in the class, so pretty much just walked them through a high level how public schools are funded, how we receive funding from the state, how the SEG, the State Equalization Guarantee, works, the history of how that formula was derived and how it funds and allocates funding to all of the public school districts in New Mexico, and how other federal and state grants work for public funding in our, particularly for Aztec. So it was a lot of fun.
Sure, very good. Well, I'm sure very informative for your staff and teachers and all that were there, so congratulations. And now moving forward, here we are in January, and so everybody's getting ready to get back to work, I guess. Your students have been in class for a couple of weeks, right?
Yes,
already.
It's been 2 weeks. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're back at it, and this is kind of a quiet time, once you get back and you settle back in, and and so they're back at it like we were never gone.
Well, that's good. That's a good thing, right?
Yes,
that's what you hope.
It is.
And with focusing on May, I guess, the end of the school year. So that's the big push, right?
Absolutely.
These days. So let's talk about some of the things you wanted to bring up this morning. And so talk to me a little bit about what some of the things that you are kind of watching, I guess, this time of year too, right?
Right. Yes, legislative session opens today at noon.
That's right.
So I brought these guys today just to discuss some of the things that we're keeping an eye out. So we have a list of some of the funding priorities and then some of the policy priorities. And so, we keep an eye on all of them, but there's a few that are a little bit more interesting and hit more at home for us.
Sure.
So one of them is, do you want to talk about addressing staffing and housing?
Right.
So this is something with federal programs that Dr. Hall, works with a lot, and he also works with our McKinney-Vento kiddos. And so, let him take it away.
What's new on that front, Dr. Hall?
Yeah, on the legislative platform. So a little bit of context. So all three of us kind of represent different associations. So in her role as superintendent, Lauren is a part of the New Mexico School Superintendents Association. There's a School Business Officials Association that Evelyn's actually in a leadership position of. And I'm no longer a principal, but I still do a lot of work with the Principals Association. Well, there's an umbrella entity called the New Mexico Coalition of Educational Leaders, and they put out a legislative platform every year. So part of what we're talking about with you are points that are on that platform. I think those entities have decided that it's much easier to do kind of a correlated legislative platform. That way legislators aren't getting like 12 different platforms from several different entities.
Right. Well, and I guess you're speaking kind of as a unified voice too, and so they know that these issues are supported throughout the state, or at least throughout the schools that have signed on to this, right?
That's exactly right. And one of the things that has chronically come up year after year on that platform has been the difficulty that districts see in getting staff because of housing issues. And that runs an odd gamut. Lauren mentioned I'm the McKinney-Vento coordinator in district. Well, it's interesting, the correlation that when you get into communities that are facing deep poverty, often there aren't places available to rent for folks moving in, particularly in rural and outlying districts. And then when you get into more expensive communities, it's nearly impossible for people, even with the increases in teacher salaries that have been addressed in the state, they're just out of the market. Folks can't even find a place to rent. What I'd highlight with that kind of close to us is they're out of state, but it's a similar situation. Durango schools has hit on the same answer to this that Lovington schools and Central Consolidated schools have done, which is teacherages.
Gotcha.
Districts are building housing units and making those available to new teachers. And so it used to be the only place you heard of that was in reservation districts.
Sure.
Districts that obviously didn't have private land available for people to lease or own.
Right.
But increasingly, districts have just on their own decided to take funding that they had and purchase properties. And so what NIMSL has done is put on their platform asking the state legislature to address that formally and provide funding and structure, and now treat rural and poorer districts, poorer communities and districts in those communities somewhat the same way by providing an opportunity for them to build housing for teachers.
Right. Interesting. And so I guess, is there support, do you think, from the legislature for some of these things, or is there a funding mechanism, I guess, to put this into practice for some of these districts?
Well, there is support. I would say most legislators, when they unpack this, are very receptive to it. So, I mean, I'll give you, my daughter just graduated from college.
Okay.
And I was visiting with someone who said, look, they were looking for a music teacher for nearly a year, which is what my daughter graduated in.
Yeah, she's ready to go.
She's ready to go. And she said if she wants to come to Lovington, she said, here's our base salary, and she gets to live in teacher housing for the first 2 years at $500 a month.
Okay.
And,
that seems
Lovington's
reasonable, doesn't it?
Yeah. And so that's how they're really kind of recruiting and retaining staff. And I believe part of what the angle they're approaching this on, a lot of folks through this platform, has to do with the public facilities finance. And I know that's something that Evelyn, a lot of us are very aware of. They have like a formulaic approach into like how to spread out the help they can give districts in doing projects like that.
Got you. And that's the mechanism too that the state uses to fund new school construction and some of the renovations and things like that, if I'm not mistaken. Is that kind of what they use? And so they could use it for maybe these other projects, these other housing projects then as well. And Evelyn Garcia, is this something then obviously that Aztec could certainly make use of? Is there an issue with things like bonding capacity or things like that when we talk about ways to use public funds?
Yes, so for teacherages, for example, I did reach out a couple of years back. It's been a while. And there's a formula that you have to follow and qualify for. And unfortunately, at the time, Aztec did not qualify for that because there's a radius. I can't remember the formula exactly, but there's a radius that if there's a number of available apartments, housing, etc., available to your district, then you don't qualify for teacherage funding. So hopefully this will either soften those rules a little bit or just give us access to more funding or maybe supplement housing.
Got you. And that, I guess, is understandable too, because if there's available housing, but maybe by definition, maybe the available housing is too expensive or what have you, and that would be why maybe a change in the definitions might be helpful.
Yes,
for some of these school districts. So that makes sense to me. So thank you both for talking about that this morning. There's another issue, I think, too, on school safety. Dr. Hall, is that something else that you're working on?
Yeah, if you look at the NIMSL platform, they use pretty general language. They want a multifaceted, broad approach to asking for the legislature to increase funding to address school safety. A lot of that has to do with the fact that school safety needs are pretty varied when it comes between districts. Some need hardware, some are needing, one of the things we've talked about in our district is just the constant difficulty of the burden of keeping staff for security. Staff are expensive, whenever you're having someone there every day. So with that variety of needs, I think NIMSL is just wanting on their platform to address the legislature with an increase. The one thing that I'll say I know is kind of a capstone thing that I'm involved with that I know they're approaching has to do with a conference that we've done the last 2 to 3 years called the New Mexico Safe Schools Summit that brings together school leaders, school principals, superintendents, EMS folks, school resource officers, police, emergency management. And we just bring in speakers and discuss policy changes, training initiatives. It's been a great, it's grown every year that they've held it over the last 3. but it's only funded through the Lieutenant Governor's office on a year-by-year basis. And I know that one of the approaches that many folks involved with that conference or that summit has been to look at multi-year funding from the legislature. That way we can continue to highlight the needs of safety around the state and school districts.
I see. And by having that, I guess, would that help school districts maybe plan more longer-term projects or maybe bigger projects to know if you've got a couple of years of funding coming down the pipeline, so to speak?
I'd say one of the biggest things that it does, Scott, is it makes districts aware of training initiatives.
I see.
Some of the things that we do, like tabletop drills with districts and the police and fire and dispatch, live action drills. It does really help when you bring together all those folks, and you also bring together the vendors that are in school district, the school safety right now, to kind of help vet which vendors are probably some of the best quality for districts to look at. And there's really strong tie-in with a lot of the social emotional approach, because obviously the trauma that's involved in large-scale catastrophes and incidents, as well as the impact that it can have on students when you do a training, when you don't know what kind of trauma that a kid is bringing to school with them, and being ready to mitigate that. So it's information sharing, resource sharing, making one another aware of what's available. That, I think, is going to be a real approach with many folks in NIMSL. But again, the way the platform reads is very broad-based, because we have, like I mentioned earlier, funding implications with the cost of staffing, and then just the very steep bill that it can be for a district who doesn't already have sufficient security cameras, fencing, just the general hardware that's needed to also secure campus these days.
Sure, right. And we've been hearing about that too, certainly for a number of years. And so, and again, every district is different. And I think for some with older buildings, it's maybe more expensive to retrofit or add locks and cameras and things like that we're talking about than if you're building from scratch or have a newer type of build. And so there's a lot of different things that go into these types of conversations, and plus the whole staffing part that I wasn't really thinking about either. So that's an important consideration too. So very good. Let's talk back to Superintendent Laws a little bit about your thoughts on some of these things when school safety, certainly, of course, and also some of the housing for your staff and things like that. That's a challenge to bring people online and things like that for you as a superintendent.
Right, sure. I'll talk about school safety first.
Yeah.
So Dr. Hall doesn't give himself enough credit, but he is instrumental in helping keep school safety at the forefront at the state level. So good job to him. But we're really trying, more funding, of course, will help. So I think that we as a district do a really great job. We have great fencing. We have all new cameras that we're using our ETN funds. I think Mr. Miller had talked about that previously. We're really trying to take proactive approaches to especially some of the SEL type things. We use federal funds to bring in, his name's Brandarius Johnson, and he does a program with some of our students that are very at risk. Don't like being at school, and gosh, it's amazing to see those kids turn around. So last year we did the program at the high school, and this year it's also at the middle school. And I must say we have PALMS coming in, is it February 9th? So we're doing a anti-substance, like proactive approach for parents and teachers of just drug awareness and what's out there, and just trying to keep kids safe in that manner. So yeah, we're really pushing and trying to keep things,
A lot of things.
Yes,
a lot
yes.
of things, right? And again, knowing how your students are doing, how they're dealing with different challenges of life, I guess is important. Even though it may be not directly related to classroom, it certainly can relate to how they're doing in the classroom or how they're socializing or what have you in the school setting.
Right, it does. We also use the counselor app, and so that's one thing that we rolled out last year with Vista Nueva, and so this year, just the high school in Vista, right? I'm looking at doing the middle school as well, but it's a counselor app, and it's basically a counselor that kids can text at their fingertips 24/7. And so we do find a spike in the usage of it at night. It's all confidential, so we don't know any of it, but it's a really neat tool that gives kids that extra support.
Interesting. And so it's available to them at any time, I guess,
Yes.
is what you're saying. And so
Yes.
through this kind of third-party application, but that's great that they can reach out, and it sounds like it's anonymous, and so they can
Yes.
just deal with whatever they're dealing with that counselor and get
Yes.
some immediate feedback.
Absolutely, yeah.
Wow.
So those are all, you
Yeah.
know, more of the social emotional
Right.
type things that we're as a district trying to do, and of course more funding would help with all of that.
Sure, right. And housing too, again, another important distinction, as Dr. Hall was saying, right? That for a lot of districts, it's just either maybe too expensive, or there's just not the housing stock that's needed for your new teachers that are coming into the district, or things along that line, right?
Right, we actually had a phone call, I don't know if we talked about this, but we had a phone call the other day that we had someone that was looking for a job, but it was only if we had housing. And so I
was a
don't
deal
even
breaker
know
for them,
where they were
right?
coming from. Yeah,
Right.
it's like, unfortunately, we do not. So they, we're going to keep calling around to see if they could find somewhere else. But
Interesting.
it would be, I think, huge to help us just be able to pull from outside and
Right.
people.
If you could add that to a job description, I guess,
Yes.
that would maybe bring in
Yeah.
some more folks, perhaps. So interesting. Well, good luck with that. So
Thank
appreciate
you.
you talking about that with us this morning to bring that to everyone's attention. Some other issues that you're looking at too from the state. I know with the state legislative session that starts at noon today, as we mentioned,
Yes.
there's conversations about going maybe back to a state school board and not a Secretary of Education, I guess. Is that the idea?
Yes, yes. That's
You like
some
that idea?
discussion.
Yeah.
You know, I'll live with either way.
Sure. Okay. Right.
Whatever happens, right?
Sure.
We'll just deal with. Yeah, and it's kind of, we were talking about like the history of it, and because we had a state board
School
of
board,
education
yeah,
at one
right.
point, and then we've come full circle. So it'll be interesting to see if they kind of look and see what worked and what didn't, if we do go back to that.
Right. Seems like we've had a lot of school superintendents, state school superintendents in the last few years. I'm just saying, putting that out there, but that's
Yeah.
factual.
Yes.
And so this would be an elected or an appointed school board, or what's the makeup, Dr.
Yeah,
Hall? Do you-
and when we were talking about, I was mentioning to Lauren, I'm an old social studies teacher, so I nerd out about this. It's really kind of
Okay.
fascinating. When you
well, then
look
we're glad that you're here.
So when you look at what the situation was originally in New Mexico, the state constitution actually laid out a state school board that was sort of regionally elected or appointed, and then they more or less, I believe, hired and managed a state superintendent. In the Richardson administration, there was a growing interest in changing that because there was a belief that New Mexico's chronic low performance nationally had to do with the fact that, well, we can't get these people out once they're in. And so however you want to look at it, Richardson kind of campaigned or pressed with the legislature that we should change, like many states were doing then and
Right.
still are, that the state secretary of education was an appointed position by the governor, which allowed the governor to step in if they didn't like what was going on with ed policy and enacting it like a quick change in leadership. Sounded good, but the issue was that because it's in the state constitution, it had to go to popular referendum. And they pushed it on the ballot, and it passed like overwhelmingly, I think largely because it had been pitched so hard
Sure.
by the governor's office at the time.
So to change it back, would that mean another
Yes.
statewide vote, I guess, of
But
constitutional change?
What they're wanting to do is get the legislature to put it back on a general referendum because of the feeling has been like, okay, that may have sounded right, good grief, like 20 years ago now that we're coming to, but it's been the turnover
Right.
that really school leaders are concerned about. The fact that we've been through so many iterations of a secretary over the last really 8 to 10 years that folks feel like we need to get back to something that has broader representation from districts and the stability and policy.
Sure.
So I don't know that NIMSL's platform stipulates exactly what they want it to look like, but that they want to start urging legislatures to consider that needs to go back on referendum. That's the quickest way to get anything on the ballot, is to get
Right.
the legislature to enact it on a referendum.
Got you. And I would point out, too, that I think, and you mentioned this, too, that with the different changes in the state superintendent of education, that occurred under lots of different administrations, no matter which party was in office. I think we had a lot of different leaders for public education. So good luck with all that is all I can say. But we'll see what they decide at the 30-day session. It's going to be a short one, so we will see. One final note before we run out of time this morning is attendance. I know that's been another focus of Aztec schools and other school districts as well. There's some other programs out about success, attendance for success, and things like that. Evelyn Garcia, is that something that you could share with us about how that's going?
So yes, we have applied for an attendance grant. Right. And we're trying to utilize that funding and get it moving like in a timely manner. And we have some initiatives out there with Ms. Cox, and Ms. Laws can help me answer that, because I was involved up front with the funding and the application, but the implementation of it, Ms. Laws is a little bit more involved in that, and I think she can share a little bit more than I can. Okay, very good. And so for attendance and for your students, how does that work? Because it's much more than just checking a box if they're in class or not.
Yes. Right. So the grant that Mrs. Garcia is talking about is something that we've been trying to push, and I think we've talked about, we did cookies one day for kids, that every kid that comes gets a cookie. So we're looking at doing other things like that, and the state actually has an initiative called Be Here, and so we're piggybacking off of that, and so we have our Be Here days. So we'll have another one coming up. We haven't quite decided. I know they were talking about what they're going to do. But I think any support that we can get to help students get to school is beneficial. Attendance is always a challenge, and so reducing that as much as possible and helping kids to want to be at school is definitely our part. But anything we can get to help, initiatives or funding helps kids with incentives and those types of things as well.
Sure, exactly. I understand. But things like, having cookies for them is great. I don't know if you need grant funding for that, do you? Or that helps, certainly. But you could certainly whip up a batch of cookies, maybe. Yes. I can't, but somebody can.
Yeah, one of the things we just actually rolled out, it's called Edia, right? And it's an attendance app. And it's not even an app, because my daughter was absent. Yeah. And it's actually really amazing. So it texts you and it says, I noticed,
it texts a parent. Okay.
That your child was absent from period 1 or whatever it says. And then it asks, please tell me why they're missing. So the parent can immediately respond, we were at the doctor. And then it says, okay, can you upload a doctor's note? And so you can just take a picture of the doctor's note, and then it goes in and excuses it. So it's an AI app, and I was pretty amazed at it, actually.
Right.
Yes, Farmington uses it as well. So
Got you.
That's what we actually used our grant.
That would be a grant funded thing. That makes sense, because that would probably be a little expensive. But I guess that then allows you not to have to worry with a staff member to maybe have to deal with those things. But if there is something a little more significant, a staff member can step in maybe and check up on those individual students maybe that are either chronically absent or absent for maybe an undisclosed reason or something like that.
Yes, we still use our attendance secretaries, and they pull those chronically absent and have conversations. We work to have individualized plans, so we'll meet with parent and student and try and get to the root cause of why they're not coming to school so that we can work to address that as well.
Got you. And of course the idea there is that if they're in class, then they're learning and they're more apt to stay in class and hopefully graduate at the end of their school careers, right?
Absolutely.
So there you go. Well, very good. Well, we're just about out of time this morning, everyone. Any final thoughts for January for the audience about how things are going?
We're excited. We'll just keep plugging away, and it's January, so we're good.
Okay.
Yeah, everything's fine.
Okay, very good. Evelyn Garcia, any other thoughts?
So my exciting thoughts are budget season is starting for our fiscal year 26-27, so I'm super excited about that. So yeah.
Okay, very good. Anticipating full funding from the legislature. I don't think there's any pending issues, right?
That's always the hope, and but we always manage. So
that's true. That's very true. Dr. Hall, what about for you? I imagine.
I was laughing, but Evelyn, we always anticipate full funding.
Yes, of course.
We'll see how things shake out.
Right.
I would just think, as we're opening up the legislative session, I think as school leaders, the three roles that you have here: district leadership, finance, other administrators in the district. I think what we're seeing across things that we've talked about today, from attendance, school safety, staffing, housing, is that there are things working around our state, and I think this even plays into the idea of a state superintendent. It's working in pockets, but they're always competitive grants. They're either federal money or they're competitive state money. But what I think school leaders want is for the legislature to consider, look, the state can pick up the contract and provide this to everyone. If it's proved out, like the EDIA app,
Right.
to be a quality one, then do a state grant and provide it to all districts. I think is the thing that strikes me that I really see NIMS approach
Sure.
the legislature about.
Because I guess when you say it's a competitive grant, then that means if one district gets the grant, another district doesn't.
Right, there's only so many dollars.
Yeah.
So, and it's not that sometimes the criteria isn't like, well, we love Aztec more than Farmington on something. It's not that. It's just literally they're looking at spreading it geographically, demographically, and population-wise around the state.
Sure.
Versus doing a state contract to provide something wall-to-wall, border-to-border.
Right. That makes sense. Very good. Well, thank you all very much for coming in this morning and visiting with us about everything that's going on in Aztec schools. I know there's much more things that are going on than we covered this morning, but it's always great to get caught up on some of the things that are going on. So thank you very much, and we'll see you, Ms. Laws, again next month.
Sounds good. Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much. My guest this morning from Aztec Schools with me here on KSJE. Did you enjoy that podcast? We hope that you did. And if you did, share it with your friends. And if you really want to keep podcasts like this coming, please support KSJE. You can do it easily online at ksje.com.